Alright everybody, welcome back. We're going to talk about two more primitive types, the int type and the long type. Let's take a look. Alright, so looking at the primitive data types from the Java, the docs.oracle, we got int. This is the main value that we're going to be using. It stands for integer. So let's go ahead and start off with that one. So I already made a little program. Int var is equal to 7, system.out.println. It'll say var is and then the value of the variable. Okay, let's go ahead and run this. Var is 7. Yes, we have assigned the integer type var the value of 7. Notice that we cannot make it 7.7 because that is not an integer type. It can only be whole numbers or negative. Let's try negative 7. Let's see what happens. We use the minus sign, and the var is negative 7. Okay, let's go back to the int type real quick. The int type is 32 bits. It takes up 32 bits of memory. Okay, if we look back at the char that we were using for several videos, it's only 16 bits. So this takes up twice as much memory than the char type. And right now in our programming career, we don't care about memory. Our programs are so small that the size of these variables aren't that big. And the fact that we're only using one variable, it's just really small. Okay? Like if we're making tens of thousands of variables, yes, the size will then matter. But we're not doing that yet. Okay. Let's talk about the long variable type. Alright, so we got another one, long. What is this? It's another integer. Let's take a look at it. The long data type is 64 bits. 2's complement integer. If you never worked with a Boolean algebra, don't worry about the complement yet. Okay? If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. It's not important for this video. But it takes up twice as much memory than the int. Okay? It takes up 64 bits on your RAM when you declare one. So let's talk about what I mean. If I go ahead and run this, yeah, the program runs, right? It takes up 64 bits of memory from the RAM. It prints out the value of the variable, then once the program terminates, which is right after this program statement, once it terminates, that memory is freed back to the computer. We're not doing any permanent damage to our system. It's only used while this program is running. We haven't learned how to make a program that runs longer than 0 seconds yet. Alright, we're still getting there. We're still learning some basics. Okay, so the long is just another integer. It just takes up more memory. We can make the values a lot bigger. Let's talk about how big these are. So the minimum value of an integer type is 2 to the 31st power. Alright, negative 2 to the 31st power. Let's get the calculator out real quick. Let's take a look at that. Okay. 2, I'm going to press this button here. 31st. That's 2.1 billion, I think, if I read that right. These are millions, these are 2.1 billion. Okay. You can imagine what let's try 64. 2 to the 64. Alright, that's just ridiculous. I don't even know how big that is. That's more than twice as big. Okay? It's not twice as big from left to right. It's 63 minus 31. It's 2 to the 32nd times bigger. That's the factor itself. Not 10 times bigger, but 2 to the 32nd times bigger. Okay? And of course it has a max. It's just 2 to the 31st minus 1. The same as the left side without the negative. Just minus 1. So these numbers are pretty big, okay? But it takes up more memory to actually represent them. So last thing. Let's talk about if we type in the character literal, F. Well, you might be thinking, wait a minute, this is a long type or it's an integer type. That's alright. Guess what? If we went back to the this website we talked about a couple videos ago, and I'll have it in the description. I have all the links in the description that I'm using. If we look at F, right, it has the decimal value 70. That's the integer type. Okay? Let's go ahead and run this. And then it'll say var is 70 because it takes the character value and turns it into its integer, just like we did last time, where we can take the integer and turn it into a character if it was a char type. Let's turn this to a char real quick. And then we make this 67. And we run this, well, it turns it into the C because this is kind of converted into a char type. But if we go back to int, you know, and type in the character C, it'll output the value backwards. So we can kind of go back and forth with this. So in a way, a character value is a representation of some integer value. And the key to this table is this ASCII table, ASCII table. That's what it is. That's what this key is. So that's how we can't change that key. Well, we're not going to change the key. Okay, this is what we're going to stick with. This is what the standard is. But that was it. So thank you for watching. We're going to talk a little bit more about the last set of primitive variables in the next video.